Hi, Cori.
Hi, Miss Dawn.
I'm so happy to be looking at you this morning.
This is a really good way for me to start my day as well. So I'm glad and I'm honored.
Well, welcome to your Author on Demand private reading.
I love
And thank you for letting me read to you because I love to read to people. I love to read out loud. There's a bit of a performer that runs in the family. So thanks for letting me do this with you.
Oh, I'm honored.
I'm going to tell you, I'm going to start with I just admire you, Cori. I admire that you've opened a bookstore in the middle of the pandemic. I admire what you're doing. Black and brown, Black and Brown Bookstore in Midtown, Kansas City.
I love that.
I'll hold it up here for a little bit so people can get it down. And how much the space is lovely. It's small and cozy, but modern, open. You can see all the books. This is what I love. I walk in, I can see the fronts of the books, and so I'm not overwhelmed. But your commitment to Black and Brown authors, that you stock books written by Black and Brown authors. Thank you for supporting us in that way. Thank you for how much you love books. It shows every time I walk in there. You love books. We just start talking about books. So I admire what you're doing and the amount of support you're getting from your friends and community to keep the bookstore going and be a part of the community. It's helping me be a part of the community. A book club every month, keeping me reading, just well organized. So I'm an honor to be talking with a hero this morning.
Oh. I know you have like a run of show, but I just have to also say that I am truly honored because I never saw myself having conversations with authors, and let alone like authors that look like me. And so being able to have this space, but also being able to connect with the people that do the job that I wish that I had. So I'm just glad to be like a fly on the wall, and I get to know all the really, really amazing writers like yourself. So I'm honored.
Oh. See what happens when I'm with you? There's this energy exchange, and I just keep getting bigger and bigger, and the energy spiraling up, and I just, whoa, what am I doing? I'm lifting off again.
That's how all Mondays should start.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's a good way to start a day. Well, Cori, you picked the essay in my book,
yes,
Blindsided, essays from the, oh, I love that. Look, she's got stickums all over it too. Thank you.
Writing, and I've been, yes.
Thank you. So the essay you picked was Final Report of the Dawn Downey Diversity Committee. Let me turn on my little light so I can see. I'm going to read it to you, and then we're going to find out what it is about this particular essay that leaped out for you. This is the final report of the Dawn Downey Diversity Committee, Kansas City, Missouri, January 13th, 2020. This report was commissioned by Dawn Downey, CEO of DD Incorporated. The committee members are Dawn Downey, blogger, Dawn Downey, lifestyle critic, Dawn Downey, accountant, and Dawn Downey, reader's representative. Implementation has been assigned to Dawn Downey, public relations director for DD Incorporated. This report follows an investigation launched after concerned citizen Dawn Downey lodged an official complaint with the Diversity Committee, complaint number 159, dated November 1, 2019. The complainant, Dawn Downey, alleges that author Downey practices and perpetuates segregation inside the Dawn Downey Friendship Circle. In fact, the complainant alleges author Downey has become colorblind. That is to say, her sight has been blinded by the whiteness of her friendship circle. We note author Downey's numerous complaints of being, her numerous claims, that is, of being victimized by race-related microaggressions. The complainant alleges, however, due to author Downey's systemic discrimination against women of color, author Downey's claims to victimhood lack credibility. Section A, the facts. Fact number 1, author Downey's Facebook friends list. 97% white, 3% Downey. Fact number 2, author Downey is the only non-white person in attendance at her own book readings. Fact number 3, author Downey resides in a white suburban neighborhood, the establishment of said neighborhood having historical roots in white flight. And fact number 4, author Downey claims in sworn video testimony, no, really, my best friend is from the hood. However, when pressed for details, she states the residence of her alleged Black best friend is Los Angeles, well, maybe Memphis. And the frequency of phone calls between them is, quote, every couple of years, but it's like no time has passed, end quote. We are outraged by this thinly veiled attempt to deceive the committee. Section B, systemic barriers to access. Systemic barrier number 1, no workplace affiliation. Women of color cannot connect in person with author Downey through her job site because her place of work is her computer in her bedroom. Systemic barrier number 2, no professional peer group affiliations. Women of color do represent a significant portion of her professional peer group, that is, writers, but they are hunkered down at their own computers in their own bedrooms. Systemic barrier number 3, no church affiliation. Although author Downey has attended religious ceremonies across the ethnic spectrum, the committee finds that her repeated tirades against some supernatural overlord calling the shots, her words, not ours. These words make her an unlikely candidate for church-related friendships. Systemic barrier number 4, no beauty shop affiliation. Author Downey has her hair cut by a white stylist. The committee feels this is particularly appalling and cannot accept author Downey's justification that the stylist prominently displays a life-size photo of Tina Turner. Systemic barrier number 5, no geographically feasible family affiliation. Author Downey lives 7.4 million miles from her family. And even if she lived closer, most of their friends are white too. The committee recommends the following affirmative action strategies. Number 1, recruitment. Set up a booth at powwows and Day of the Dead festivals under the banner Imagine the Possibilities, Reclusive Writer as your BFF. According to security footage from a writers' conference, Author Downey followed a Cherokee author from registration to workshops to lunch and into a restroom, where Author Downey begged Ms. Cherokee author, "Will you please be my friend?" The diversity committee regards this strategy as antithetical to achieving diversity goals. Affirmative action strategy number 2, Ethnic Girlfriend Month. Write essays every April, imagining the potential friendships of famous women of color, such as Frida Kahlo and Queen Nefertiti. Affirmative action strategy number 3, reparations. Make direct payments to women of color and their descendants who were excluded from the Dawn Downey Friendship Circle between the years 2017 and 2020. This covers the time period during which she was writing blindsided essays from the only Black woman in the room. The diversity committee is adamant Author Downey should not profit from the immoral condition that she herself created. Affirmative action strategy number 4, web presence. Establish a social media site, meneither.com, where women of color share their personal stories about not being friends with Author Downey. Strategy number 5, busing. Chauffeur women of color to and from all book readings. Number 6, free lunch program. Buy lunch every week for a year for women of color who accept membership in the Dawn Downey Friendship Circle. Number 7, quotas. Set aside 25% of all new friendship positions for women of color. And number 8, nepotism. Award immediate friendship status to any woman of color related to Author Downey through blood or marriage. In conclusion, this investigation substantiates the allegation that, due to Author Downey's colorblindness, women of color represent an inadequate percentage, 0.0%, of the Dawn Downey Friendship Circle. The Diversity Committee urges Author Downey to immediately implement the affirmative action strategies outlined in this report. Following implementation of the strategies, the committee will permit Author Downey to resume writing stories about race-related microaggressions. However, such permission does not guarantee protection from future occurrences of said race-related microaggressions. Additional action may be required. And finally, the committee strongly cautions Author Downey against relegating this report to the status of previous Diversity Committee reports, which were discovered shelved in the Affirmative Action Strategies Archives Library sub-basement. The committee thanks you for your attention.
Gosh, I love that. I love that. and I think also all of my books need to be read by you. So I don't know how you can make that happen, but I would like that to happen, please.
Say that again. All of
my books need to be read by you.
Oh, thank you. I will.
That's what I need.
I'll do it.
Oh, I love that one. I mean, it was really, really hard for me to pick, but that one, as soon as I read it, was like, this is the one. This is the one. Oh, I love that one. And then Read by also is like, yes, 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 yes. So do you want me to tell you why I picked that one now? Okay.
I do.
Okay. So it's like a 180 from like my own personal experiences.
Mm.
Because I do not have very much diversity as far as like non people of color in my circle.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I find it so interesting when I think about people who like I do have a couple of friends who are non-black
Mhm.
or brown.
Mhm.
And they're amazing. They're great. And we check in. I've collected them through like work, and then they've turned into like real friends, not just work
Yeah.
friends.
Right.
But I find it so interesting when I think about Black women specifically and how we juggle like friendships outside of like Black or brown people. And so when I saw this and it tried and true is very much like, yeah, we don't have much diversity that looks like me in my friendship circle. I was very interested. And then so the point in the story or the facts where it points out like your Facebook friends list, 97% white. And then the part about being the only non-white person in attendance for your book reading.
Mhm.
And so when I got a chance to like pop into your book reading, I was kind of interested to see like, how did you connect with these people?
Mhm.
Do you collect them as you write? Are you a part of a specific writers guild or writers circle and community? Or I was interested to see what the makeup was. And then like seeing she's also a writer friend of yours, who was brown in
Mhm.
the book reading. I was just like, oh, okay. I mean, she said this. So it was just very interesting to me. And then I like the way that you broke it down into this way that's very introspective, of like even like the barriers to access, like the no workplace affiliation. How do you connect with people? And then just outside of women of color specifically, but just I'm in a space of like, what does it look like to have new friendships? And so I've been fortunate enough to be in a space where people are connecting with me.
Mhm.
And just recently someone asked me the question of like, will you be my friend? I don't really know how to ask you that without sounding or feeling like like a little kid.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I thought it was so interesting because I'm in that spirit of like, okay, new friendships are on the horizon, but how do you find the people
Mhm. Mhm.
if we're not, in a workplace or,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
I am not a writer. So I'm not, my office is not at home, but my office is at the bookstore. And so it's very limited in how I connect with people.
Right. Right.
So
Right.
I was like, that's such a good point. Like if I'm not making friends at work or I don't have the necessary like peer groups to do that. Like there's a couple of other bookstore owners that may or may not have brick and mortars, but it's kind of, we're all doing our own things. We're all kind of like teams of one. So we really don't get the luxury of like connecting that way sometimes. So, and then the church affiliation, I'm like, well, sis is not going to church either. So I'm not meeting any people that way or the beauty shop. So I
Mhm.
just thought it was really interesting how you broke it down because it's like, oh wow, that's true. If I'm
Mhm.
not in the spaces that are commonly set for me to make friends, how do I make friends? And then also how do I connect with people that look like me? So
Mhm.
it
Mhm.
resonated for so many reasons. And I also am just interested in how you're balancing that. How did you get here? So that's why I chose that one.
Well, I love that because it's a lifetime of being surrounded by white people.
Yeah.
And my family's Black, but there's quite a number of white wives and husbands in my family. My father was a writer and a writing teacher, and that was in Santa Barbara, California, when I was in high school. And that is a white,
Mm.
mostly white beach town. And as he was growing up, teaching other people to write, not as he was growing up, but as I was in high school, he was teaching other writers through adult education and an annual writers conference. Well, most of those folks were white who were coming to his classes. The woman I call mother is not my biological mother. She raised me from the age of 12. Mother did. She's white. So I have this black and white parents, and they are surrounded by this community of kind of spiritual, kind of artsy, kind of, they're all white.
Yeah.
And so growing up, there's this surrounding of white. And then I end up in Kansas City, where I start writing, and the big writers group that I became a part of for a number of years, which was just a really bumped up my skill level. 30, 40 people in the group every week, they were all white. So starting out as a writer, it's the writing community around me was all white. So I write, I get better, I publish, people connect with me, and they're white. And if I ever want to ask, do you know a such and such? Everybody say, oh yeah, I know a good one, and they'll be white. So there's this circle of whiteness. And then if they recommend anything to you, it's likely that that's going to be a white person, because all of their circles are all white. And so it's like sinking deeper and deeper and deeper into whiteness, which I didn't realize, because one of the things that happens is that I don't get any credit, or you don't get any, like, okay, we're not gonna be racist towards you because you have white friends. You don't get that. You don't get those kind of credits when you're out and about in life. So always exposed to what we're exposed to as people of color. And that emotionalism, you tamp it down when it happens, you second guess and tamp it down. And by the time I wrote this book, I collected these essays, and it happened right around the time of George Floyd's murder. And so we're all talking about this stuff, and I'm writing about it and bringing up these painful memories. I didn't want to be writing this book. And then when it was finished, I'm thinking, well, what do I don't want to be talking about this book now because it's too painful. At some point, this essay that you chose was a big aha moment for me, because I'm going, oh, I understand that I am the only Black person in the room all the time, and how that affects me emotionally. But all of a sudden, I got that I had a certain responsibility for being the only Black person in the room, because I'm still in the room. I'm allowing this room to be formed around me. And that's what I saw, like, oh, there's a term for this. I have centered whiteness, which is what our society does. And I absorbed that. You don't think, oh, there's Dawn, she's the only Black person here, if you're white, because, white people don't have to think about race, so they don't think about it. But as Black people, as a Black woman, I'm always aware. So this essay was so neat for me because, oh, I have played a part in creating the whiteness of my friendship circle.
Mm.
And then it keeps getting better because the writing talks back to me after it's written. So the last line in this essay about the committee strongly urges author Dawn Downey not to put this in the basement and shelve it with all the other affirmative action reports that have been published before. I went, after the book was published and I'd been reading about it and talking about it for a while, I went, oh, damn. Don't put that insight on the shelf. Act on it. And so I have consciously been bringing women of color into my circle. And it was so neat to understand in a visceral way what that political term, affirmative action, actually means. It means you have to take action, specific affirmative action to change the situation. Whoa.
Yeah, I love that. I love that because one, the term alone has such a like very specific use in, I think, in our society. And the people that are associated with the term affirmative action aren't necessarily the people that overutilize or really utilize in like real time affirmative action. But also that speaks to just like people who understand the resources around them and then actually utilize the resources. Because I do think, like, to your point, I think a lot of people have the idea and it's still like in the ideation part, but then we forget to execute on the actual plan or the idea.
Yes.
So even that sometimes is a privilege to be able to say like, oh, I knew that this was a resource for me, or it was a resource that was available. And then I actually got the resource. Like I knew how to complete it and ask for the resource, and I actually got it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I love that you pointed that out because that's very true. And then, man, how often are we, again, like having these moments of like, oh, these aha moments that we forget to just like use. We'll put them in our back pocket and then it starts to collect dust. And before we know it, we put it in our own sub basements. That's such a good
Systemic racism is a virus. I'm affected by it just as much as white people are.
Yeah. That's such a good point. I have to add that to my Oh, I love that.
Yeah. I earned a note. Yeah.
Maybe, okay, I literally read this and was just, it's so funny because I literally had a conversation with my cool aunt yesterday. And we were hanging out and we were waiting on this place to open up. We had decided we were going to just have like a full day of an adventure, just on a whim. And so we were waiting on this place to open up and we were talking about, we just get into random conversations about anything and everything. But my cool aunt is biracial. And so my grandmother, her mom, is a white woman. Mm-hmm. And so, and then my papa's, real country black from Arkansas, and my grandma's from Wisconsin. And so my cool aunt's much closer to my grandma's side of the family. So she'll like go hang out with my cousins and their family, like regularly. And we were talking because I told her I was kind of just checking in on my cousins, because one of my cousins in particular buys lots of books. Like she just buys books periodically. And we haven't talked in years. Like I haven't seen her since I was little. And I was telling my cool aunt, like, I don't know if I'm not necessarily welcomed, but I don't know what my place is in the family because my grandparents got divorced long time ago. And so it's just like, well, I don't really know what, I haven't seen them, so I don't know. Um, and so she's like, yeah, of course they still think of you as family. But I literally had that moment of saying, like, well, I have a couple of white friends, but I don't have a whole lot. And so I don't know what it's like to go up there and me as who I am today and not, Cori of,
Yeah.
the third grader who's just like, oh, we're having fun, we're at parades. And so just, kind of being in that space post Trump, post, the era of like Black Lives Matters and George Floyd, and just seeing, some of that side of the family who's very much like Trump supporting. They are verbally
Oh.
this. So just like, just that whole like weird, I don't know. And so it just kind of like brought this back around because it's like, wow, how often do we do inventory on our own friendship circles? And then also, how often are we doing the inventory on just the diversity in general? Like, does my circle look like this because that's all that I'm comfortable around? Or did I?
Right. Why does my circle look like this?
Yeah.
Yeah. I had one of the ahas I had was realizing that I was the only friend who was not white. Of all the white friends I had in their circles, I was the only Black person.
Gosh.
So you can do a little check on this on Facebook, because you go on Facebook and you look at the photos of everybody's friends, and I'm starting to look. Are there any Black faces showing up in their photos?
Mm-hmm.
No.
And so what do you do with that? Like, how do you?
This is this is really trippy for me, because now I know that now I'm going, well, I want Black friends. How do I get them? I had to write myself an affirmative action plan. So it's very systematic. I said, okay, first of all, it's difficult to make new friends as an adult, because every adult already has their life set. They've got their friends. If you move to a new town and you meet somebody and you go, oh, I'd love to be their friend, come Thanksgiving, they're not going to think of you because their habits are already set, and you end up Thanksgiving at home in your new town. So there's the adult factor. But what I realized was that at this point in my life was all about writing. Every social piece of my life comes from my writing. So that's where I have to start bringing Black people of color into my life. So I got to find an all Black writers group. I gotta look for things that are all Black. And so, and not even all Black, but focused on people of color that have to do with writing. And writers should have relationships with bookstores. So a couple of years ago, I'm thinking, well, what's the name of her bookstore? She's been in town forever.
Miss Willa?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So I went to Willa's books a couple of times and we chatted. I loved going in there and talking, and but there wasn't a feeling of connection happening, and I couldn't really get into buying books from her because the layout of the store is her collection and there is not a particular order to it, and I get kind of overwhelmed when there's too many choices. So I committed to going in once a month and buying a book from her, just to just show my face, say, hey, I'm Black, talk to me.
Yes, yes, yes.
But that didn't work out so well. And then
Hard.
you opened up, I think it was 2021. I think it's been less than a year, right? Juneteenth last year.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going, and I'm really serious about this change in my life now. I'm seeing it and I'm going, oh, I know how to do this. Thank you. And then you open up, and the location is within my circumference of easy places to get to.
Yes, yes, yes,
It's
yes.
easy location, good parking,
So
but mostly it's right there in my, it's like, oh, I consider that part of my neighborhood.
yes.
And we went by on the day you opened. It was astounding, because we couldn't even get in the parking lot. It was so wonderful to see how you were supported. Packed, parking lot packed. The bookstore was packed. So we went back the day after, a couple of days after, and you got a chance to talk to you. And I fell in love with the space. There was just this immediate heart connection to the space and to you. And then when you had book club, it was, I don't know, sometimes whatever it is that's in charge of our lives plops something down for you. And whatever that was plopped you down for me. Because I can go into the bookstore and feel there's a sense of, I think this is going to lead me, help me with my sense of community that's been lacking in my life, because you do other things. You're associated with yoga. You got the book club. You're doing the tarot card reader is coming, and those are things I'm interested in. And it's like, okay, I need an affirmative action plan. And writing and books are my starting point. And when the first time I talked with you, we had a conversation, and it was obvious how much you love books. That was it. I love talking about books and writing. And thank you. So you have become a part of my affirmative action plan.
I love that. Also, that's such a Capricorn way to put this
Oh
into.
God, it is, isn't it?
I love, and I think that also might be another reason why I gravitated to it, because it's very like, here's an outline, okay? We're gonna put this into action because this is literally an action plan. Here's the problem. Here's some suggestions. Here's what we're gonna do. And I'm like, this is thinking about.
You're right. It is such a Capricorn essay.
And I love it. I do. Oh man, Ms. Dawn, truly, you have been such a good like. I need to go back to figure out when you joined book club, because you've seen it through some different like transitional periods.
Oh, I'll tell you, the first
Okay.
book we did was Toni Morrison, Sula.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah,
the first, I'm going, oh my God, I've read this book about 3 times. Could we pick a better book for me?
and the book starting with friendship being that big push of like, okay, well, we need to check in. Are we still really friends because we enjoy each other, or because we grew up together and we kind of grew through some stuff?
Right. Is it a habit?
Yes, yes. But you have been a very important part of my community too, because there people are joking that like now when people come in, the expectation is that we talk and we like do this whole thing. And I'm like, I mean, people want to come in and buy their things and go. And then there's people that want to talk and do the thing. And I'm like, I'm down for it either way. But you are truly a person that I am so excited when I get to talk to you, because you have such a wealth of knowledge. Um, because you've experienced things a very specific way in different places, and you have this perspective, but also every time you say something, it is from this like, it like oozes with like light and love.
Yeah.
And it's also very like, it's vulnerable, and it also does not feel like I'm older than y'all, so y'all need to just listen. And that was like something that like friends of mine and just other people in book club have like even said. And I was like, when you came to book club, because just when you don't know people and you're like in a space of like similar minds, you're at least like, okay, the hope is we have something in common. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. And so that at the very least has to be the like, okay, they're gonna be decent. People are gonna be decent. It's gonna be fun.
Right.
And when you came in this space, it felt very much like, hey, I'm learning, I'm figuring these things out too. Like I'm finding my own alignment in what my ecosystem is like. And that's just so refreshing, and it's continuously refreshing. And so when I get moments to just kind of like peek into your life, or like pop into like your readings and kind of like see the people that support you also, I'm just like, yeah, like it tracks. It makes so much sense. So I truly was like, oh yes. And then finding out that you were an author, it just, I'm like, oh, this is alignment, because if nothing, like that's what I want. Like I want to know the people that do the thing that I wish I knew how to do, but also that do it from such a like authentic space. And that's you. Like when you told me how you came up with the cover of the book, even, I'm just like, yes, because of course, yes. And I'm just like, oh, it's all these things. Like it feels, I don't know, when people come into the store sometimes and like give me their things, I'm always grateful for it. But some of them have been like hard hitting things, which is fair. There's a lane for it.
Right.
And I love the way that you write your essays to be super introspective. And it doesn't appear that it's going to be some like, you're trying to be deeper than it is. It's like this one thought that was like, oh, and I'm going to explore it. I want to go deeper into this thought. And then whatever kind of happens. But you're also very like vulnerable with your writing. And that has been such like, for me personally, it has been like, oh, yeah, because it is that. Like, I know we didn't do the comfort food essay, but when you read it, because it's like something as small as this, like that we don't necessarily have like an actual answer to, but as Black people, we have that other lens of like, there's several layers to this that could have possibly taken place. And is it a bad thing that I necessarily always pair things to race? No, but also sometimes everything is just paired to race, and that's just what it is. Yeah. And so I just love how like vulnerable your writing is, and how you tell these stories in such a good way that's like, okay, what's next? Say the next thing. I'm like, I'm hooked. I'm here. So, it is chef's kiss. It's so great.
Oh.
It's so great. And so I look forward to anytime you come into the store. I'm like, oh, yeah, we're gonna do the thing. We're gonna talk. Like it's such a good time. So you have impacted my ecosystem the way that you say that I have impacted, or Black and Brown has impacted yours. You have certainly tenfold done the same for me. So
it's that word you use, alignment. I really like that. We are definitely in alignment.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
Yeah. So the essay I'm working on right now is like a postscript to the affirmative action essay. So it's where I'm talking about the process of opening up my friendship circle.
Yeah. Oh, I can't wait.
Divesting myself of groups that If it's all white, it's segregated. This is, we have forgotten this word, and I think it counts. And there are people, I think it's relevant because there are a lot of benign, lovely groups of people getting together in church, in other groups, in their clubs. And if you look around the room, it's all white. Now that says segregation to me.
Mhm.
So those places where I was the only Black woman in the room, if I step out of that room is segregated. What do I want to support a segregated institution
Yeah.
or social group for? I'm not. I can no longer do it. It feels bad. Even, well, I forgot what line of thought I was following, but it feels bad to not see yourself. It feels erased.
Yeah. I would love to know also, and you may not have an answer to this yet or at all, but just have you, as you like try to shift out of kind of those spaces and like into these other spaces that are in a good alignment for you,
Mhm.
do you tell people kind of what's going on? Like, do you tell your friends like, hey y'all, or do you, is there?
I've had one conversation. It was very hard because he and I are good friends. He has always supported my writing. He was a musician. He still is a musician, very a performer, loves to perform. He runs a spiritual organization now. And one of the ways that he has supported my writing is that whenever he has the chance, he will say, come and read. And so once every couple of months, there'd be an opportunity in his spiritual organization for me to read to his group. And so I knew the next opportunity was coming up on the calendar. And I knew that I was going to have this conversation and tell him no.
Mm.
And so we Zoomed, and I said, I'm not going to do this again because it's an all white group. Every once in a while, a Black woman will find out, or a woman of color will find out that I'm the speaker. And so I'll look out and there'll be one or two, but they won't be back.
Mm.
And so I told him that it feels sick in my stomach to look out and not see myself reflected.
Yeah.
So one of the challenges with conversations like that one and in the writing about the situation is to keep the focus on how it makes me feel rather than to go into that. It's easy to go off into you over there should change this, this, and this.
Yeah.
But it's really not about that. And it's not very interesting to be constantly, this happened and I'm mad at you because it happened. So because he was dear to my heart, still is, it was so hard. But because he's a very heart-centered person, we had the conversation from my heart to his, and we were both teary-eyed. And he said, what can I do to make this, to bring more people of color into my group? Now, here's the irony. My critique partner, who is white,
Mm-hmm.
had told me, because we were talking about another uncomfortable incident I'd had, and she had said to me these magic words, Dawn, it is not your job to teach white people how to be better allies. What? It's not. And she's a white woman telling me this. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And so I use those words. It is not my job to teach you how to be a better ally. My job is to write.
Yes. Oh, and that's so freeing, I could imagine.
Yeah. Yeah. Just let it go.
Oh man. That's a really good word of advice, because I feel like we constantly are in the space of like, okay, I have an issue and I need to fix it, and here's how I'm going to do it. And
Mm-hmm.
so often it's really like
Mm-hmm.
really we need like a temperature check of like, okay, is this really an issue?
Mm-hmm.
Then whose job is it really? Like, it's
Mm-hmm.
your job to manage your experiences for sure, or your responses to them, but sometimes it really is not on you to like remedy the entire situation.
Right.
It can
Right.
be hard.
It's my job to fix my space,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
to be
Yep.
intentional in my space. I'm
Mm-hmm.
learning how to do that. So other people, and I know why these spaces don't get changed, because it's hard.
Mm-hmm.
It takes constant attention to it. Every decision you look at in terms of, well, wait a minute, does that align with my intention? Oh, no. Facebook friends, that's where I post my writing on Facebook. Aside from my blog, I post it there too. And so I got a lot of friends, air quotes friends, and people asking to be friends. And lately, I've been looking at those friend requests, because as a writer, you want to just have
Mm-hmm.
everybody in the world reading your writing. But is this new person asking to be my friend, is that friendship in alignment with this new intention I have?
Mm-hmm.
And I look, and if the friends we have in common are not people that are close to me. So am I discriminating now? It's a really, it's an interesting place
I see.
to be, because am I discriminating now by saying, okay, no new white friends? Am I saying that? I don't know.
Mm-hmm. I was gonna say, have you made a decision on how you feel about that? Do you feel like that's discriminating?
I feel like that's the same question, that's the same thing that comes up when people in power argue against affirmative action, that it's discriminating against so and so. But the broader, the issue of access is about, well, in higher education, say the issue of access to higher education has more to do than with whether a person is an incoming student of color or not. And that's not why colleges choose people to come together, especially in a residential school. It's based on a whole bunch of things. And having people who have lived a different type of life than the majority of other students is an asset to the education. And so each situation is considered individually. Each situation is unique. The next person that asks to be my friend, it will be a different group of friends that they're asking to be a part of. It will be a different dawn they're asking to be connected with. My situation will have changed. And so it's not useful to generalize.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's my answer. It's not useful to generalize, because every situation is unique and needs to be honored.
I love that, because I think that that is a question that I get asked on the other side of it, but because I don't have many white friends, and so I think sometimes petty question of that is, well, like, well, that feels like reverse racism, doesn't it? Like, and though I don't believe in that, because I do believe in the word, the definition of racism, but just like, I think it is okay to be selective. We are, you know, we give ourselves grace in choosing what kind of car we like, whether that's domestic versus foreign, and we have our own specific reasons for that.
Right.
And so I think when we talk about this, there's definitely space, and there should be space for grace to say, like, well, this is my intention, so
Right.
it is what it is, you know, and if it doesn't feel right for you, then you get to make a choice.
Right. Right.
So yeah. Oh, that's a really good point, but it's hard. But I'm glad that you've come to that answer for yourself.
Yeah, we'll see where it goes.
It's an essay.
Oh.
I can't wait to read the essay and see how the plan is coming along.
Oh, it's good, Cori. I've found a couple of writing support groups that are focused on telling the stories of people of color and other voices that have not traditionally been heard. Good writing. I got a couple of unbelievable writing workshops online, and the faces that pop up on Zoom are all writers of color. And the writing and the teaching has been so profound. Just leave the space going, where's my notebook? Where's my laptop? I gotta write. So it's, yeah. Good stuff.
Hopefully, as your circle changes a little bit for you, I have the pleasure of having some friends. You've seen some of them in book club, so I don't know if you would remember their names or not. But a couple of my friends now, like, we get together every single Sunday virtually. And we just literally will be on FaceTime with each other, and we'll sit for like an hour, give or take, and we'll all be writing different things and working on things that we're writing. So,
you have a co-working group.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's wonderful. I love that.
It's been so great, because it's one, I think, as we like revisit checking in with friendships and like contract renewals and friendships, but just like, okay, y'all, you know, you guys are my accountability support system. So now we got to figure out how we can all kind of do these things. And
we need that.
Two of the four have moved out of state, but you know, just being able to say like, hey, you said you wanted to write a book, remember? And you said you had some poetry you needed to finish. So come on, we got to do it. So it's been so good.
Yeah. You mentioned a woman of a brown face in my reading on Zoom, and I knew her. I was connected to her through my critique partner, who also has a book coaching business, and she has set up co-working sessions like you've described. So in support of her, I've been attending these co-working sessions, and the woman you saw is one of the women in the session. Now, as part of my affirmative action plan, I set up this Zoom meeting, and I know the friends I have who've been following my writing for years, they're white. So I'm going, okay, I need an affirmative action strategy for my reading. So I reached out to her and I said, I kind of am embarrassed, and I kind of don't want to be the only Black woman in my own Zoom room. Would you come? And so supporting me, she came. That was so.
That's the good start. That's how you do it.
That's what you have to do.
You check off the
That's what you have to do. And then I said, well, okay, I'm going to ask Cori. And as soon as I told you about it, I didn't have to ask you.
I'll be there. Yes. Of course. Of course. And now that I know that this is a part of your action plan, I'll always ask if I can bring some other people with me. So,
Oh, bless you.
of
Thank you.
course, of
Thank you.
course. And I'm also thinking, since now you seem to have some availability in some seasonal readings, that maybe you can just pop on down to the store and you can do some readings there. So,
Yes, that will definitely happen. Yeah, that's going to happen.
I love that.
Oh, Cori, I can't even describe what it's been like to be reading to you and talking with you, but thank you for
That's how I
supporting
like to
my
start my Monday.
writing.
This was so good. Now I'm like, okay, this is how I need to start my Mondays every morning. So if you just
I'll read the whole book to you, Cori. Do not give me a chance to, do not turn the camera in my direction.
hey, look, I welcome it, absolutely. I welcome it.
Oh, well, I am going to hit stop recording
Okay.
and we will say goodbye after I hit stop recording again.
Oh, wait, should we take a picture maybe?
Let me see. Where is the take a picture?
Or I might, hold on, let's see. If I can do it, then I can email it to you. Let's see. Okay.
Okay, let me get mine. Thank you. See, it's so good to have techie friends.
We're trying. Look, we're doing some things.
We are doing some things.
Okay, ready? Let's see.
Ready.
Okay, so 1, 2. I don't know which side looks better. This side, maybe? No, this side. Okay.
There, yeah.
Okay, 1, 2, 3.
Thank you, Cori.
Of course, and I'll email this picture to you right now once
Wonderful.
we get off of the
Okay.
Zoom.
I'm going to hit stop now.